It started with a ping, just another group message, or so I thought. I picked up my phone expecting the usual chaos. Maybe Aunt Marie's last-minute rant about who's bringing the snacks or my cousin's passive-aggressive comments about room assignments. But instead, there it was. One sentence. No warning, no kindness. Just, don't come this year. You're no longer welcome among us. I read it twice before it even sank in. At first I thought I was seeing things. Maybe it was meant for someone else. Maybe they added the wrong Anya to the group. But no, it was crystal clear, and my name was right there at the top, just below the cruel little message that knocked the air out of my lungs. I didn't cry. Not right away. I just sat there, staring at the screen, like it was going to blink and take it all back. But it didn't. And as the numbness set in, something strange happened. I remembered something important. Something they clearly forgot. I was the one who booked the beach house this year, reserved it months ago, paid for it, in full, in my name. They thought they cut me out, but they were standing on my front porch. I wish I could say I was surprised, but the truth is, part of me saw it coming. The sideways glances at family dinners, the fake smiles, the whispered conversations that stopped the moment I walked in. Still, a message like that, it cuts differently when it's written out. Permanent. Cold. Like I was some inconvenience they finally decided to erase. No explanation. Just execution. You spend your whole life thinking family means unconditional love, right? That no matter what, there's a seat at the table with your name on it. But there I was, phone in hand, feeling like someone had yanked that chair out from under me, and the silence that followed, the total, deafening silence, made it worse. No one messaged me after, not even to pretend it was a mistake. I sat in my kitchen, phone still lit up, and stared at the reservation email, the one I got 6 months ago, the one that confirmed my payment, my name, my dates. That house wasn't just a place for sunbathing and family drama, it was mine. And suddenly, all I could think was, they had no idea what they'd just done. I didn't respond to the message. What was there to say? That it hurt? That I deserved better? They knew that. Or maybe they didn't. And that's the problem. They didn't see me. Not really. Not as someone who's held the family together more times than I can count. They only saw what they wanted. Someone easy to blame, easier to discard. But if they thought I'd just crawl away quietly, they clearly forgot who I am. I'm the one who handles the details. The one who makes sure the wine is cold, the rooms are assigned, the towels are folded just right. And I'm also the one who signed the lease on that beach house. Funny how quickly people forget when they think you're no longer useful to them. So no, I didn't cry, I didn't beg, I didn't even call. I just stared at that message and then at the confirmation email in my inbox, and I smiled, not because I wasn't hurting, but because I suddenly knew exactly what I was going to do next. I didn't rush into anything. That's never been my style. Instead, I let them keep going, planning, posting, texting each other with excited little countdowns. They were still in the group chat, after all. I just wasn't in it anymore. But I could imagine it all. Beach playlists, food lists, who's bringing what floaty. They had no idea they were building a fantasy vacation on a foundation that didn't belong to them. First thing I did was call the rental agency, just to confirm what I already knew. Yes, Miss Anya, the woman said kindly, tapping away on her keyboard. Everything's still under your name. Check-in must be done in person with the primary guest listed here. I thanked her with a calmness that surprised even me. I felt grounded, anchored, like I'd found a piece of myself they couldn't touch. Then I started making calls. Nothing dramatic, just a few arrangements here and there. A local florist, a private chef I'd used once before. I wasn't planning a scene. I was preparing a reminder. A quiet but undeniable reminder of who they thought they could erase. It wasn't about revenge. Not really. It was about truth. About standing in the place they tried to push me out of and letting them see that I was still there. That I'd never left. I wasn't planning to scream or throw a fit. No drama. Just presence. My presence. I wanted them to feel the absence they created and realize they had no power to erase me. I spent the next few days tying up the details. I requested the security code be changed on check-in day. I let the property manager know I'd be arriving personally. Then I picked out my outfits, not for them, but for me. Something about reclaiming the space started healing parts I didn't know were bruised. I began to feel like someone who mattered again, someone solid. And while they filled their chat with emojis and excitement, I sat in the quiet, wrapping each little task with intention. Every reservation, every confirmation email felt like a brick laid in the foundation of my own clarity. They thought they'd shut the door. They didn't realize I had the key the entire time. The irony wasn't lost on me. They removed me from the group chat like it was some grand declaration, some final act. But while they were busy playing gatekeepers, I was the one holding the actual gates. And trust me, I wasn't planning on opening them for just anyone. Especially not for people who decided I was disposable the moment I stopped fitting into their narrative. I didn't tell anyone what I was doing. Not even the few friends who would have gladly fueled the fire with me. This wasn't about performance. This was about precision. I wanted the moment to land like a pin drop in a silent room, unexpected, undeniable, and unforgettable. I wasn't chasing confrontation. I was creating impact. So I triple-checked the reservation one last time. My name, front and center. Their names? Nowhere. And just like that, it was settled. They took me out of the group chat. I added myself back to the reservation list. I got the alert first. Property gate opened at 2:17 p.m. Right on schedule. I could almost picture it. The caravan of overpacked cars, kids spilling out, someone arguing about who forgot the sunscreen. For a moment, I felt that familiar ache, the ghost of being part of something. But then I remembered, I wasn't the one who left. They were the ones who pushed. And now, they were stepping into a story that didn't belong to them. The property manager called me minutes later. I answered with a steady voice, already knowing what came next. Hi, Anya. Sorry to bother you. There's a group here trying to check in, but their name isn't on the reservation. I smiled. Not cruelly, just knowingly, like a teacher watching a lesson unfold. Thanks, I told her. I'll be there soon. Just let them wait. I took my time getting ready. Nothing flashy. Just enough to feel like myself again. I slid on my sunglasses, grabbed an iced drink from the fridge, and printed the reservation contract. The sun was warm on my skin as I got into the car. The kind of warmth that feels like permission to arrive on your own terms. By the time I pulled up, they were already gathered near the entrance, suitcases on the gravel, sunglasses pushed up, confusion written all over their faces. My cousin was pacing with her phone, clearly trying to reach someone. Another was arguing with the property manager, flailing her hands like that would somehow change the booking system. I parked slowly. Let the engine purr before I shut it off. Let the silence stretch a little longer. No one noticed me at first. I stepped out calmly, iced drink in one hand, contract in the other. I didn't say anything right away. I just walked up like I belonged there. Because I did. When my uncle finally caught sight of me, his jaw clenched. My mother's eyes darted toward me, wide and unblinking, like she'd seen a ghost. No one spoke. The air felt thick with a mix of heat and shame. I raised the paper just enough for them to see the name on it. My name. The same one they'd tried to erase. Is there a problem? I asked, voice even. The property manager turned to me with instant relief. Oh, Miss Anya, perfect timing. I nodded, eyes still locked on my family. Really? Because I thought I wasn't welcome. So why are you all on my property? For a second, no one moved. You could hear the breeze rustling the palm trees and the faint hum of waves in the distance, but between us, there was only silence. My cousin finally spoke, all false sweetness and strained laughter. Anya, come on, this is a misunderstanding, right? She gestured toward the bags at her feet, like luggage could overwrite what they'd done. I didn't answer. I just looked at her. Really looked. That's when the shift happened. Their smiles cracked. One by one, they realized I wasn't here to smooth things over. I wasn't here to pretend nothing happened. I wasn't going to save them from their own choices. and you could see it in their posture, the slow sinking realization that maybe, just maybe, they'd underestimated me. I handed the manager the printed contract, never breaking eye contact with my mother. "They're not authorized to be here," I said simply. No anger, no theatrics, just the truth, clean and sharp. The kind they couldn't wiggle out of. And as the manager nodded and turned to the group, I stepped past them, keys in hand, walking through the door they thought they'd slammed shut on me. Inside, the house smelled like lemons and sea air. Clean, crisp, untouched. I walked through it slowly, letting my fingers graze the countertops I had paid for, the linens I had chosen from that ridiculous upgrade menu, the view I'd dreamed about while working overtime. Every inch of it was mine. And on the other side of the glass doors, them, still standing there, unsure if they should beg or break down. They didn't knock right away, probably debating who should do the honors. Eventually, my aunt stepped forward, tried the polite route first. "Anya, honey, can we just talk?" Her voice wobbled with the kind of guilt that only shows up when consequences walk in the room. I didn't answer. I poured myself a glass of wine, pulled open the doors just enough to let the scent of rosemary from the garden drift in. Then, finally, I spoke. "You can come in," I said, "but only if someone explains, clearly, why I was told not to show up." No one jumped at the chance. My uncle muttered something about miscommunication. My cousin rolled her eyes like this was all dramatic. I just watched them squirm, sipping my wine, waiting for someone, anyone, to say the truth out loud. The silence after my question was almost poetic. You'd think, after orchestrating my exclusion, someone would have come prepared with a story. But no, just awkward glances and a few mumbled excuses. "We didn't think you'd want to come," one said. "You've been so distant lately," another offered, as if their distance hadn't come first. And then, the one that really landed, my mother, arms folded, saying, "We just thought it was best to keep the peace." I could have laughed if it didn't sting so much. Keep the peace? By deleting me from the family like a bad sentence in a group email? My grip on the glass tightened, but my voice stayed calm. "You don't get to decide when I'm too much," I said. "Not after all the times I showed up for this family when it was falling apart." Their faces dropped a little then, memories bubbling beneath the surface. But no one apologized. Not really. So I made the choice they never expected. I closed the door. Literally. Gently. No slams. No shouting. Just enough to let the message sink in. And then I got to work. Texting the friends I'd invited, confirming arrival times, unlocking the speakers, and cueing the playlist I made weeks ago. If they wanted a vacation without me, I was going to give it to them. The view? Unmatched. The party? Exclusive. The guest list? Selective. They didn't leave right away. They lingered outside like stray thoughts, pretending they weren't waiting for me to change my mind. I saw them peeking through the fence when the first guests arrived, laughing, hugging me at the door, arms full of wine and beach towels. Real smiles, real joy. The kind you can't fake for appearances or bloodlines. I welcomed them in like the hostess I'd always been, but this time, it wasn't for anyone's approval. It was for me. We danced. We ate. We made memories in every corner of that house. And every now and then, I'd catch a glimpse of them, across the street, still hoping the door would open again. Some of them tried to play the victim card, texting me with guilt-laced messages. "Can't believe you're doing this," or, "Wow, you've changed." And maybe I had. Maybe I'd finally changed in the exact way they never expected. They wanted a vacation without me. I gave them exactly that. Only now they were on the outside, looking in. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't the one left out. I was the one choosing who belonged. By the third day, the novelty of their pride wore off. They booked a cheap motel 10 minutes inland. Musty curtains, flickering lights, the kind of place where the pool always looks just a little too green. I didn't have to see it to know. I could feel it in their silence. No more texts, No more drive-bys, just absence. The kind I once feared, now reimagined as peace. I sat on the balcony with my morning coffee, watching the tide roll in, when the idea struck me. Not out of malice, but out of something deeper: clarity. I pulled up the rental contract, skimmed through the fine print, and smiled. I had more days than I needed, and I knew someone who could use them far more than I ever would. So I picked up the phone and made one last call. Hi, yes. I'd like to release the final 3 days of my reservation. Could you coordinate with the single mothers housing nonprofit in the area? I'd love for them to enjoy it. The agent was stunned for a moment. Of course, she said. That's incredibly generous. But to me, it just made sense. I didn't need more days. I already had what I came for. I took a photo that morning. Nothing dramatic. Just the ocean, my coffee mug in the corner, the light catching the waves just right. Then I sent it to the family group chat. Yes, that chat. The one they'd removed me from, but that I had access to again thanks to an old login they forgot I still had. No caption. Just the picture. And then, a moment later, a second message. Hope your new accommodations suit the level of respect you've shown. I didn't send it to hurt them. Not really. I sent it so they'd feel it. The absence. The choice. The full circle of it all. There's a particular kind of silence that follows when people realize they can't undo what they've done. And that was the silence I received in return. No replies, no explanations. Just stillness. The kind that settles after something final. And strangely, I didn't feel triumph. I felt weightless. Like something heavy had finally fallen off me. All that bending to fit in, all that shrinking to stay included, it was over. I hadn't just taken back my seat at the table. I'd built a new one. And now, it was mine to offer. Or not. Later that evening, I packed up slowly, folding clothes that still smelled like salt and sunshine, gathering souvenirs from a weekend that felt more like a turning point than a getaway. The house felt different now. Not just a place I stayed, but a witness to something reclaimed. I left the space spotless, lights off, windows cracked just enough to let the breeze whisper through one last time. Before locking the door, I took one last look around. Not with sadness, but with a kind of reverence. This wasn't just a victory, it was a restoration. I didn't need them to say sorry. I didn't need them to beg for a seat. What I needed, what I finally gave myself, was permission to stop chasing people who only saw my worth when it served them. As I drove away, I didn't look back. The house was no longer mine, not physically, but it held something that would never belong to them again, the moment they tried to leave me out of the picture. And I became the frame around everything they lost.